Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Business This Week. I am Blessing A.G. Today, this show will look at two sectors. One, the power sector and aviation sector. But I'll give you more info about that after Business Roundup in a minute. Our first story on Business Roundup today is on the Department of Petroleum Resources, which is enforcing the new price of 121 naira 50 kobo per litre for petrol at filling stations across the country, and has shut down errant outlets selling above the stipulated rate. Speaking during the inspection of filling stations in Abuja, a neighboring state, under Zonal Operations Controller Abubakar Buba said the DPR had also been notified that many outlets were under dispensing products. On the compliance level of marketers to the new pump price of petrol, Buba stated that although he was impressed by the conduct of some dealers, a few others failed to comply. He said the filling stations of defaulters had been shut by the agency until the companies were ready to comply with the new pump price. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, has said some of its partners are producing a barrel of crude oil in the country at $93, a development it described as unacceptable. The Group Managing Director, NNPC, Malamili Kiari, who disclosed this, said many oil companies operating in Nigeria had personal costs that had become unsustainable under the current market realities. The chairman of the Senate panel, Senator Solomon Adiola, had asked the NNPC, represented by its Chief Operating Officer upstream, Mr. Yemi Adetunji, to explain why it was proposing $21 as production cost per barrel of crude when the new oil benchmark proposed in the revised budget was $25 per barrel. Kiari, in his presentation at a webinar organized by the Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists, said a number of steps were being taken to bring down the cost of production in the industry to $10 per barrel. He assured the national oil firm would not lay off its workers despite the oil price collapse occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. The Nigerian Postal Service has sent a request for an amendment to the Finance Act 2019 to the National Assembly as it seeks to be empowered to earn revenue from the collection of stamp duty. NIPOST and the FIRS have been embroiled in a dispute since 2019 over which agency should collect stamp duty on behalf of the federal government. While the FIRS say it has the mandate to collect taxes, duties and fees, including stamp duty, imposed by the federal government, NIPOST argues that it has the statutory powers to print, mint, produce, retail and provide adhesive postage stamp for the use of Nigerians. The postal agency said it has been empowered to collect stamp duty and would not give up its rights. Before the Finance Act 2019 came on stream, NIPOST had been the custodian of stamps and had been empowered by the Stamp Duty Act 2004 to collect stamp duty. However, different shades of controversy have erupted since 2016 when the Central Bank of Nigeria directed banks to deduct 50 naira stamp duty on every electronic transfer with a value of at least 1,000 naira. The Finance Act 2019 contained an amendment to the Stamp Duty Act, which conferred on the FIRS the exclusive right to collect stamp duty on behalf of the federal government. Now let's take a look at the parallel exchange markets. Okay, that's it at the parallel exchange market. Now you know how the Naira is faring. And on the Nigeria Stock Exchange, trading for the week was bullish as investors gained 45 billion Naira on positive sentiment. Okay, it seems like things are beginning to look good at the stock market. Coming up next is an interview on the aviation sector where we looked at the current issue in the aviation sector. It is not news anymore that domestic flights will resume at June 21st. And some airports in the country have been ticked to reopen, but none in the North-East zone. There's been some form of protest. In this interview, we'll discuss the issues and the probable reason why no airport in the North-East zone was ticked for reopening. And after that, we'll talk about the power sector. So stay with us.
Key stakeholders in the Northeast have had to, protest, as it were. Let me say, first of all, that I do not know the exact reasons why the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, along with some other stakeholders they might have consulted, decided, not to reopen any airport in the Northeast at this point in time. But I want to, guess that, they might have taken two or so considerations into account. The first one is the security situation in the Northeast. Yes, significant gains have been made in the area of ensuring security, checkmating the Boko Haram insurgents, herdsmen, marauders, and all that. But the security situation in the Northeast is still very, very fragile. The security situation in the Northeast, is one that needs to be further watched, before flights, can resume. One is not sure, of the safety, perhaps, of the aircrafts and even the travelers, in the planes. That might be the reason, one major reason why that has been so. But the second possible reason, I guess, is the need for the Presidential Task Force, to test the waters in the context of COVID-19, and in the context of the need for a gradual reopening of the economy. You see, the behavior of a good number of Nigerians in relation to complying with the social distancing, physical distancing requirements to combat effectively COVID-19 is not really, encouraging. And in that case, a gradual reopening of the economy, a gradual reopening of various sectors is advisable. So I believe that that might be the reason why, one reason why the Presidential Task Force probably settled for, let us see if we reopen a few airports, one, I think Kano Airport, Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and Enugu. In the south-south, it's only the Port Harcourt International Airport that is, to be reopened. Our Benin Airport has not been mentioned yet. So also are many other airports in other states. So I think it's a wise decision to say, let us, reopen a few airports and see whether that, would have positive effects, on COVID-19 control. Because what you are doing in that case, when you reopen the airports, you're actually saying that you are allowing, interstate travel, via the air. But meanwhile, interstate travel by road is not yet allowed. And that is because of the need to minimize, interstate transmission of COVID-19. So I believe that that could be one reason to say, okay, let us test the waters by reopening a few airports. When they see how the airlines comply with the protocol, because they are supposed to have, a certain proportion of their capacity or seats filled, perhaps I think about 50%. They want to be able to see whether there is going to be compliance on that one. Once there is compliance and the airlines are well behaved and the passengers themselves are well behaved and there is no negative impact on the efforts to control COVID-19, I believe most of the other airports, if not all, will be reopened. So now let me just add that the fears of people in the Northeast may not be that justified at the moment. They should not bring in sentiments into this kind of health challenge and the need to control it, or bring politics into it, or because somebody is somewhere is not there, then they are being discriminated. No. If they can help the Presidential Task Force to ensure that there will be good compliance with COVID-19 protocols in that area of the country, or there is the assurance that security has improved tremendously, then definitely the airports in that area will also be reopened. With the reopening of some key airports, then the areas where the airlines are flying to, the cities where the airlines are flying to, will definitely have some economic benefits. As at now, the hotel and the tourism industry virtually comatose. There is no business for most of the hotels, because hotels in the cities are largely patronized not by the people living in the city, but by travelers, businessmen, investors from other parts of the country. So in those areas where travels, air travels have been, eased up, then the businesses, hotel, catering, and allied services in those areas will begin to pick up. And that means economic activities will begin to revive, as before. And the entrepreneurs in those areas will be happier because they will now be generating revenue and income. So employment will also be boosted in a way, because hotels that laid off workers before, or were paying maybe just a proportion of the entitlements, may now be able to pay and recruit more people. In the same way, the Northeast, where no airport is being reopened or going to be reopened, will be hardly hit, through the continuation of the lockdown. It means the lockdown is still virtually, very, very, large in those areas. And the hotel and tourism activities will not, reopen. But when eventually, the Northeast areas, like other parts of the country, are fully reopened, then economic activities will rebound again.
All right, thank you for being there. Now, looking at the power sector, so many consumers of electricity in Nigeria have been unmetered, and that has resulted to estimated billing. Now, some time ago, when we had a discussion with the public affairs head of Benin Electricity Distribution Company, one of the reasons he gave for meters not being readily available sometimes, and even the high cost of meters, is that they are imported, and because of the high cost. Now, I have with me here a power consultant and energy expert, the person of Dr. Brighton Sugimoyi. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
So, Dr. Brighton, so why do we have to import meters when we would think that perhaps there's something that can be done here? Is it impossible for we to have indigenous manufacturers of meters?
Well, the truth is that if you want to have indigenous people to build the prepaid meter, it's very simple and it's easy. But the problem we are facing in this country is there are too many policies when you want to start manufacturing the hardware. To build the hardware of prepaid meter is easy to do. But where there's a problem is the software. You know, for prepaid meters, you will need to pay some money. They give you a number you're going to type into the meter to be able to start reading your bill.
Okay.
Now, that software is being owned by foreign countries, foreign companies. So if you want to produce the prepaid meter locally, the government must come in. The government should be able to pay off the people who have the patent right for the software. That is where the problem is. If you are not going to be found liable for producing or diving into the software, then you would have seen people doing this prepaid meter. You just get it and buy it around on the streets or in an electrical store. But the problem is, if you do the hardware, how do you incorporate the software without being arrested for violating somebody's patent right? That is where the problem is.
Okay. Now, knowing that this is the challenge, why do you think up to now, government, even the regulator, NEC, has not come into a matter like this so that we can have indigenous producers of meters, and then electricity consumers can be metered?
You see, this thing is politicized. That is the gospel truth. It's politicized. If the government wants this thing to work, there are a lot of stages that the government must be involved.
Okay,
not just building. Now, let me give an example. For example, we talk of power generation. There is the generating aspect of the power. There is the transmission aspect of the power.
Okay.
There is the distribution aspect of the power. So if government will be sincere, first, the generation. If you generate, for example, maybe 7,000 megawatts or 10,000 megawatts, and then the distribution lines are bad, how do you do it? How do you move it to the end users? Or to transmit it from wherever the power has been generated, you have problem with the lines, of transmission lines. Okay. What will you do? Now he gets to the field that will now get to the distribution unit. Now we are having troubles where every community now in the country is developing by the day. People are buying houses or building houses, buying a lot of electrical stores. Ideally, a nation that is serious when it comes to power, electric power solutions is, number one, every five years, for example, the transformers must be replaced with a bigger transformer because the community is expanding. In this country, we find a situation whereby we see a particular transformer that has been there for maybe 20, 30 years. And then insincerity where people will tell you it is the responsibility of the discos to replace your transformers, for example, whereas in reality, when it is time for you to replace transformer, you will see landlords coming together to contribute money to be able to change the transformer. Then when you do that, somebody comes back again to tell you that that property belongs to the disco. I don't want to mention any of the disco's name. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the insincerity here and there, or you build a house, you want to put a pole that you can use to extend the power line to your house. You use your money to buy it. You use your money to do the wiring. Tomorrow somebody will come and tell you that that pole, that wire belongs to the disco. So there's a lot of insincerity in this whole thing. But if the government is ready to make this thing work, building indigenous prepaid meter is, in fact, as for me, I will speak for myself that it is the easiest thing for me to do. because I'm an electrical electronics inventor. I'm not an engineer, but I'm an electrical electronics inventor. If you go through my profile, you will see the things I've invented and the innovative works I've done when it comes to do with these power issues.
Okay, so it is very possible for us to have indigenous producers of meters. Well, I think that's a fine place to leave the discussion here. Thank you very much, Dr. Brighton Sugimoy, for coming on the show. Now, we do hope that those in the right positions, those in authority, NEC, and the federal government should work hand in hand to ensure that we have indigenous manufacturers of these meters. At least for one, it will help that every electric consumer is metered, so you know what you consume. And then the rift is always between discos and consumers would not actually be there, and will also empower that industry. So once again, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
I'm Blessing Aviation. Until next week, stay safe.